69-year-old James thought he was doing everything right. 3 years after his wife passed, he started dating Patricia, a charming woman he met at his local community center. They seemed perfect together until James introduced her to his family at Thanksgiving. By Christmas, his children had hired a lawyer, threatened to declare him mentally incompetent, and Patricia had disappeared with $28,000 from his savings. James's story isn't rare. It's becoming the norm. The dating landscape after 60 is a minefield of emotional manipulation, financial predators, and family betrayals. But the seventh truth I'm about to share could be the difference between bitter loneliness and the most profound freedom you've ever experienced. I'm sharing these brutal realities because somebody should have warned James, and somebody should warn you. Stay with me because the last truth could completely transform how you view your future. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, then comment ready if you want the unfiltered truth. Now, let's start with the most emotionally devastating reality that destroys families every day. Truth number 1. Your adult children will become your enemies. The cruelest irony of dating after 60 is that the people you sacrificed everything for might become your biggest obstacles to happiness. David was 64 when he lost his wife to Alzheimer's after 7 years of caregiving. He'd given up his hobbies, social life, even retirement plans to care for her. After 18 months of grief counseling, he met Eleanor at church and began dating, instead of happiness for their father. David's children launched a campaign of emotional warfare. His oldest son accused him of replacing their mother like a broken appliance. His daughter stopped bringing grandchildren for visits. His youngest demanded to see his financial records. Convinced Eleanor was a gold digger, family gatherings became battlegrounds where David had to defend his right to companionship to the very people he'd raised to be independent adults. This isn't about ungrateful children. It's about deep psychological triggers. There's the loyalty bind. They feel accepting your new relationship betrays their deceased parent's memory. There's inheritance anxiety. They're worried about their financial future. There's role confusion. You've always been just their parent. Now you're asserting your identity as a romantic being, which shatters their perception of who you are. The emotional toll is devastating. After decades of putting your children first, making sacrifices for their education, weddings, and families, you finally want something for yourself, and they make you feel selfish for wanting basic human companionship. Here's what you need to understand. This reaction often gets worse with time. Your children may recruit other family members, use grandchildren as emotional weapons, or even take legal action if they believe you're being exploited. You raise them to be independent adults who make their own relationship choices. You deserve the same courtesy. Sometimes protecting your right to seek companionship requires setting boundaries you never thought you'd need. Truth number 2. The dating pool has dried up completely. If you think finding love after 60 is just about putting yourself out there, prepare for a harsh reality check about the mathematics of senior romance. Here's the brutal breakdown of what you're actually facing. Start with 100 single men in your age bracket in your area. Immediately subtract 30 who have serious health issues like heart disease, diabetes, or mobility problems that make dating impractical. Remove another 20 who are so bitter and damaged from their divorces or previous relationships that they're impossible to be around, constantly complaining about their ex-wives or past betrayals. Take away 15 more who are exclusively looking for women 20 to 30 years younger than themselves, chasing fantasies they'll never catch. Eliminate 10 who are financially unstable, either broke or still supporting adult children who should be independent. Remove another 10 who have completely given up on dating and relationships altogether. Having decided the effort isn't worth the potential reward, that leaves you with just 15 potentially available men out of the original 100. Now consider that those 15 men also have their own standards and requirements for health, attractiveness, financial stability, and compatibility. The numbers become impossibly small very quickly. For women, the statistics are even more discouraging. There are significantly more single women over 60 than men, creating fierce competition. Many of the available men are either emotionally unavailable or fixated on finding much younger partners. The genuinely good men, those who are emotionally healthy, financially stable, and truly kind, are either already in relationships or have such a wide selection of options that your chances of being chosen become incredibly slim. Geography makes everything exponentially worse. Unlike younger people who might relocate for love or maintain long-distance relationships with ease, most people our age have deeply established roots. You have your doctors, your routines, your proximity to children and grandchildren. Your dating pool isn't just limited by age and availability. It's severely constrained by your immediate geographic area. Online dating theoretically expands your options, but it also opens you up to the scammers we discussed and people who misrepresent their circumstances. Many quality people our age are intimidated by technology or refuse to use dating apps entirely. The harsh mathematical reality is that you might spend months or even years searching for someone genuinely compatible. And even then, there's absolutely no guarantee that the feeling will be mutual. Truth number 3, your body will betray you at the worst moments. Here's a reality no one discusses openly, but it affects every aspect of dating after 60. Your body is no longer reliable and will fail you at the most inconvenient and embarrassing times. Let me tell you about Harold, a 72-year-old retired contractor who started dating again after his divorce. Harold was in decent shape, walked regularly, watched his diet, and felt confident about getting back out there. On his third date with a woman he genuinely liked, they went to a nice restaurant and had what seemed like a perfect evening. Then, walking to the car, Harold's back went out completely. Not just stiffness, complete incapacitation. He ended up flat on his back in the restaurant parking lot, calling an ambulance while his date stood there helplessly. The relationship never recovered from that embarrassing reality check. This isn't just about dramatic medical emergencies. It's about the daily unpredictability of an aging body. Your bladder doesn't give you the same warning it used to. Your digestion is sensitive to foods you've eaten your whole life. You might experience dizziness when standing up quickly. Your hands might shake when you're nervous. Your hearing might fail you during crucial moments in conversation. For men specifically, erectile dysfunction affects nearly half of men over 60, and that percentage increases significantly with age. The medications that can help often have side effects that affect your energy, your mood, or your overall health. Blood pressure medications, antidepressants, and prostate medications can all impact your sexual function in ways that are difficult to predict or control. Your stamina isn't what it used to be. Activities that would have been effortless in your 40s, like dancing, hiking, or even staying awake for a full evening, now require recovery time. Your sleep patterns have changed, which affects your availability for evening activities or overnight stays. The cruel irony is that these physical limitations become most apparent when you're trying to make a good impression on someone new. The stress and excitement of dating can actually trigger physical problems you haven't experienced in years. Truth number 4, financial disaster awaits around every corner. Money ruins more senior relationships than infidelity, incompatibility, and health issues combined, and most people don't see it coming. Frank, a 67-year-old retired postal worker, had his pension, Social Security, and modest savings for comfortable living. When he moved in with Sandra, a retired nurse, to save money and spend more time together, Frank discovered the financial nightmare of senior cohabitation. Frank's Social Security benefits were recalculated because Sandra's income was now household income. The reduction was significant. His Medicare Part D became more expensive because their combined income pushed him into higher premiums. Sandra lost her deceased husband's pension entirely. The money they'd saved living together evaporated, leaving them worse off than when separate. Dating costs money on fixed incomes. Restaurants, entertainment, travel, grooming, all courtship expenses strain retirement budgets. If you're expected to pay for dates, as most men our age are. Costs become substantial. There's the inheritance issue. Every dollar spent on dating is one less for your children's inheritance. They're watching and calculating, creating tension with children and new partners who feel constantly evaluated for financial motives rather than appreciated for companionship. Estate planning becomes incredibly complex, blending families and finances. Legal fees for updating wills, power of attorney documents, healthcare directives are expensive. If relationships don't work, you redo everything. Doubling costs, prenuptial agreements. Unnecessary in younger years. Become essential with significant assets. But discussing prenups kills romance and creates suspicion before reaching the altar. The solution requires brutal financial honesty from relationship beginnings. Understand exactly how dating, cohabitation, or marriage affects your finances before commitments. Consult financial advisors, tax professionals, estate planning attorneys. Expensive upfront, but prevents financial disaster later. Truth number 5. You are a walking target for professional predators. Romance scammers specifically target people over 60, and they're extraordinarily good because they've studied our generation's psychology, values, and vulnerabilities. Walter, a 75-year-old retired engineer, considered himself intelligent and skeptical. When his wife of 50 years passed, Walter tried online dating carefully, researching sites and reading safety articles. Walter met Angela on a reputable senior dating site. Beautiful, articulate, sharing his interests in history and classical music. Her profile said retired teacher in nearby city. Their correspondence was sophisticated. Angela never immediately asked for money or pushed quick meetings. She invested months building emotional connection, sharing stories about her late husband, children, hobbies. 6 months in, Angela's daughter was supposedly diagnosed with rare cancer requiring experimental treatment not covered by insurance. Angela was devastated emotionally and financially. Having spent savings on initial treatments, she didn't ask Walter for money directly. Too proud, she simply shared her anguish and impossible situation. Walter, being caring, offered help. $25,000 later, Walter discovered Angela was actually overseas scammers using sophisticated psychological profiles and stolen photos to target emotionally vulnerable seniors. No daughter, no cancer, no treatment, just professionals exploiting Walter's fundamental decency. These scams work against our generation not because we're stupid, but because we come from times when people were generally trustworthy. We approach relationships with openness that served us well for decades. Scammers exploit this by mimicking our generation's communication patterns and values. They know we're often lonely, financially stable, less familiar with digital red flags. We value long-term relationships built on emotional connection rather than immediate physical attraction. We're more likely to help someone in crisis, especially someone emotionally important to us. Financial losses are devastating, but emotional damage is worse. Victims lose ability to trust their judgment, becoming suspicious of everyone, making genuine relationships even harder. Never send money, gift cards, or financial information to online-only contacts. Be suspicious of anyone unable to meet in person quickly. Trust instincts when something feels off. Truth number 6. Time is running out faster than you think. This truth influences every dating aspect after 60, usually leading to poor decisions and unnecessary heartbreak. Eugene, 71, became obsessed with running out of time to find love after his wife died, and he spent 5 years caregiving and grieving. This awareness made Eugene frantic. He joined multiple dating sites, attended every senior event, said yes to every setup. Eugene dated 3 women simultaneously, not because he was a player, but because he felt he couldn't afford focusing on one when time was precious. Eugene's desperation was palpable and destroyed his connection chances. Women sensed his urgency, making them uncomfortable. They felt he was shortcutting natural getting-to-know processes, Rushing toward commitment before establishing true compatibility? If you're 70, actuarial tables suggest 12 to 15 years left, including years with serious health issues, reduced mobility, cognitive decline. You're truly independent. Active years might be 8 to 10. This reality influences every relationship decision. Fear of running out of time leads to destructive patterns. You might lower standards significantly, settling for incompatible companionship because you don't feel you have time to keep looking. You might rush intimacy or commitment because this might be your last chance. You might stay in non-working relationships because starting over feels impossible. This time pressure affects potential partners dealing with the same limited time awareness, making them equally desperate or extremely selective because they don't want wasting remaining years on imperfect matches. Ironically, this desperation wastes more time than patience. Selective approaches. Eugene spent 2 years in rushed, unsuccessful relationships before realizing his urgency sabotaged genuine connection chances. But here's our final truth, the most important thing I'll share today. So stay with me because this could completely change how you think about your remaining years. Truth number 7, the most liberating realization of your life. This final truth could set you free from all the desperation, disappointment, and complicated drama I've described. Arthur, an 80-year-old retired teacher, came to a profound realization after his 4th failed relationship in 6 years. Arthur had frantically tried finding love since his wife passed, driven by fear, loneliness, and pressure from well-meaning people telling him he needed someone to take care of him. Arthur tried everything: dating sites, church singles groups, community dances, every blind date friends arranged. Each relationship started with hope, ended with disappointment, conflict, or heartbreak. Arthur was exhausted, financially drained, questioning his judgment about people and relationships. Then Arthur had his moment of clarity, sitting in his favorite chair Sunday morning, drinking coffee, reading newspaper. He realized he felt completely content. He wasn't lonely, wasn't desperate for companionship. He was simply at peace, for the first time in years. Arthur asked himself a radical question. What if I don't need another person to complete my life? What if I'm actually fine exactly as I am? This realization was initially terrifying because it contradicted everything society taught about happiness and fulfillment. But as Arthur sat with this idea, he saw how his frantic love search had actually made life more complicated and less satisfying. When Arthur stopped looking for romantic partners, something magical happened. He had more time for genuine joy, woodworking, volunteer work at the literacy center, Wednesday coffee with his best friend, more money because he wasn't spending on dates, more emotional energy because he wasn't managing constant relationship stress and disappointment. Most importantly, Arthur discovered he could create rich, meaningful, deeply satisfying life without romantic love. His relationships with children and grandchildren became closer because he wasn't distracted by romantic drama. Friendships deepened because he had more time and attention. He took up painting, learned guitar, traveled to places he'd always wanted to see. Arthur's story illustrates the most liberating truth about life after 60. You don't need another person to be complete, happy, or fulfilled. Society will try convincing you otherwise. Well-meaning people will pressure you to find someone. Media will say everyone deserves love and should never give up looking. But what if they're wrong? What if desperate romantic love searches actually prevent discovering how satisfying life can be when you're not constantly accommodating someone else's needs, preferences, and problems? This doesn't mean avoiding relationships if genuinely good ones present themselves naturally. It means stopping making romantic love a happiness requirement and building life so fulfilling you don't need another person to complete it. When you reach genuine contentment with yourself and your life, something interesting happens. You become more attractive to potential partners because you're not desperate, needy, or trying to use them filling empty spaces. You become selective because you won't compromise the peace and satisfaction you've created. The paradox: when you stop desperately seeking love, you become the kind of person others want around. When you're genuinely happy with your own company, you become better company for others. Final thought. So there are the 7 brutal truths about dating after 60. Your adult children might become obstacles. The dating pool has shrunk to almost nothing. Your body will betray you at worst moments. Financial disaster waits around corners. You're a walking target for predators. Time is running out faster than you think. And finally, the most liberating truth. You don't need romantic love to live rich, meaningful, deeply satisfying life. I'm not sharing these to discourage seeking companionship if that's genuinely what you want. I'm sharing them so you can make informed decisions based on reality rather than fantasy. If you choose to date, go in with realistic expectations, strong boundaries, and clear understanding of what you will and won't accept. If you choose remaining single, do so intentionally and create life so fulfilling you don't need another person validating your worth. Stop letting society, family, or fears pressure you into believing you must find romantic love to be happy. Your worth isn't determined by relationship status. Your happiness doesn't depend on having a partner. Your life can be extraordinarily rich and meaningful exactly as it is right now. If this video has given you new perspective on dating and relationships after 60, please subscribe and share this with friends who might benefit. In comments, tell me which truth hit closest to home, and I'll respond with specific advice. Most importantly, remember that whatever you decide about dating, you deserve spending remaining years surrounded by genuine respect, kindness, and care, whether from romantic partners, family, friends, or most importantly, from yourself. Thank you for having courage to hear these difficult truths. I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore more ways to live your most authentic and satisfying life after 60.